If you want to learn how to use Blender but don't know where to start, this video is for you. I'm going to be going through the complete basics of how to use Blender for a beginner, where I'm going to be going through all the basic interface, movement tools, and a few different modeling techniques, and this video is going to be primarily focused on modeling. However, if you're looking to get into something like animation, this video will still teach you a lot of the fundamentals you will need to know. The first part, I'm just going to show you quickly how to install Blender if you don't have it already installed, but for those of you who want to skip to just the Blender part of the tutorial, go to this timestamp on screen now. But if you don't already have Blender, this is where you're going to want to go. So on Google or whatever browser you use, you want to go to the search bar and type blender.org. I'll link this in the description as well, but if you go to blender.org, you'll see here it comes up with whatever the newest version is. It might look different to this in the future, but it'll be the same process. There should be a little download button here where it promotes the newest version, so you click this download button. If it doesn't have that, just go up here to the download button up here, and then download Blender, and then it'll come with the latest version. It lets you donate, but Blender is completely free, so do not worry if you have no money, and then you just want to wait for that to download. And then it should say here, the Blender, and then the version name, and whatever you're on, and then you want to double click on this and it will open the setup wizard. Just click next, accept, next, and then install. When you click install, it will install Blender. I'm not going to do this because I already have Blender installed and it will mess everything up if I do it, but it should only take a minute or two. And now that you've got Blender installed, it should look something like this. This image might be different for you, this kind of like image on screen. It depends what version of Blender you're using, but even if you're using a different version, Blender doesn't change that much, especially these basic tools I'm going to be teaching you now. But anyway, you can just click anywhere off of this and it should disappear. And now we're into Blender. But anyway, by default, your Blender will literally just have random stuff in the scene. We basically have the default cube, which I'm sure a lot of you will have heard of many times, a simple light and camera. The light and camera we don't need, so we're just going to click on it with the left click, delete with the delete key, and we're going to do the same with the camera, the delete key. Another way you can delete stuff, so I'm going to undo this with Control Z to undo, Control Z to undo, and as you can see, it brings them back. You can use the drag box. You see here, I've got the select box selected. You can just drag and drop over them both and press delete. Or another way to delete is using the X key and then clicking the delete button, just like that. Now that they're gone, we have just our default cube. And for those of you who are confused as to how I'm moving, I'm going to go through that now. To move, you basically use the scroll wheel. So if you press down the scroll wheel on your mouse, you can kind of move around like this. And as you see, you're basically rotating about the center point. You can also do shift and scroll wheel down to move around like this. And they're basically the basic move tools you need. So you can see here, you press down the scroll wheel to rotate and shift scroll wheel down to move around. You kind of pan around like this. And to zoom in, you scroll forwards, and to zoom out, you scroll backwards. It's very simple. They are the basic movement tools. You're going to just get used to them. At first, I promise you they feel horrible, but after honestly a day or two in Blender, you will be a master of them already. And once you've been using Blender for years, you forget they're even there. And now we're going to go through just the simple meshes, how to add them, how to delete them. And again, just like before with the camera and light, you can just click on your cube or draw a box over it with the select box and then press the delete key. Now that we've got nothing in the scene, you might want to add a new mesh. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a new object to the scene. So to do this, you go up here and press add, and then there's loads of things you can add. However, when you're a beginner, you only really need meshes. The mesh is the simple shapes you've got, and especially if you're doing some basic modeling and animation, this is all you'll need. So you can see here, you go add mesh and then go over in the mesh, and you can see all these different options, and these are all just dependent on which one you want. You see here, if we click on cube, you'll see it brings back the cube we had before, and then we can just delete that again with the delete key. And we're going to go back to the add menu, mesh. You can add something like a sphere to add a sphere to your scene. Or you can add another mesh. You can add a cylinder. And you can actually see, well, you can't really see, but there are actually both of the shapes here. You can kind of see some clipping around the edge. And the way you can check that you do also have both of these in your scene is over here in the top right corner in the collection. You can see the sphere and the cylinder. This is another way you can select stuff. Say, for example, we wanted to select the sphere, but we can't because the cylinder's in the way. Like this, you see, trying to select it, you can't. You can just click on the sphere, just like that. Or one other thing, if you actually click on the sphere once and then click again, it will actually kind of like X-ray through when you double click. So that is a pretty cool feature. We're going to delete both these shapes now, so back to an empty canvas, and we're going to go and we're going to add a cube again. However, this time, instead of going up here to the top left and doing add mesh, I'm going to show you a much faster way. When you're doing lots of work in Blender, this will save you a ton of time. What we're going to do is we're going to go on our keyboard and do Shift A, and then add. It'll come up with this add menu. So basically what Shift A does is instead of clicking here, it brings that menu to your mouse, and then it goes Shift A, mesh, and you can just add it just like that. So you just here, quickly modeling, you know, you can go quick, add shape, add a cube. Instead of going, oh, let's go all the way over here, add mesh, cube. And as you see, that's a lot longer. But anyway, we've got a cube here now. Whichever way you do it, it doesn't really matter. Just the other way is a bit faster. Now with this cube, I'm going to show you the cool stuff you can do with it in object mode. Basically, we're just going to move it around, rotate it, scale it, stuff like that, nice and easily. To do this, you can just go on the left here, and you can see just where we had the select box before, you can see there is all these different options. We're going to go with the move one first, the top one. Click on it, and you can see now when you have your cube selected, it puts this kind of like move tool thing right in the center, very similar to the one in Roblox Studio. If you don't have anything selected here, you will see that there is nothing there. Just select your cube, nice and easy, and as you see, it comes up now. And you can simply just move things around using the different arrows. And you know, go move it around all the different areas. And of course, if you want to undo something, it's Control Z. So you can see I can press Control Z to undo each movement. And if you undo something and go, actually, I want to redo that, you can do Control Shift Z to redo it. So yeah, that's something pretty cool. Just thought I'd share that with you guys. But another thing with the move tool is you can kind of see there is a white circle in the middle. If you, instead of clicking one of the arrows, click the white circle, you will see that lets you move it more freely. So you can see it doesn't move like along one specific axis. You can also move it along kind of like a plane if you select, instead of selecting the arrows, these like different like squares. So you see here, if I select the red square, it will move everywhere apart from along that red axis, you will see. And again, you can do the same here with the blue one. It'll move like on everything apart from the height. You can see it's the same height. And to know what these axes are, they're very, very helpful to know off by heart. You'll learn them pretty fast. Basically, the green one is Y, the red one is X, and the blue one is Z, or Americans Z. People always get confused when I say Z. Z is Z, it's the same thing. But anyway, if you forget this, do not worry. In the top right corner, there is literally just this little ball thing where you can actually press and hold and move around to move around your scene. I prefer using the scroll wheel. And you can see all of the different ones labeled here. X, Y, and Z. Simple, right? Not too hard. But anyway, that's it for the move tool. Let's get on to the rotate tool. So we're going to click down here on the rotate tool. And as you will see, it comes up with another little one of these little things. To use it, it's pretty simple. You can just click on one of the lines and rotate it around the axis, and then you can just rotate it basically, or you could do a few at once. You know, you want to just rotate it and create like some cool shapes, stuff like that. Or similar to the move tool, you can just click in the middle, not on a specific line, and just rotate it basically wherever you want freely. That can also be a bit of fun. And that's about it for the tool. There's not that many features to the rotate tool. Next is the scale tool, so just click the one below it. And as you can see, we have the scale tool open here, and you can either scale along the green Y-axis, the red X-axis, or the blue Z-axis. And there we go, that's pretty much it. And if you want to scale uniformly, you can just scale by pressing in the middle and scaling up. You might be wondering what this tool is below the three tools I've just shown you. It's basically just a transform tool that does them all at once. So if you want to just do all your modeling, you know, you can do your scaling, your rotating, your moving, all that stuff. It's all in one tool, but I personally prefer doing it another method that I'm going to show you now. So as a beginner, it's great using these different tools, and I would definitely recommend it because it will get you very, very used to Blender without it being too complicated. However, I'm going to show you a new method now for some of you who might like this more. So I'm going to go back to the selection box method just so that you guys understand how this kind of works. So you might think because there isn't the little thing in the middle to move it, that you can't move it. That is wrong. There are actually keybinds to do all of the different movements without them. So the way I'm going to show you how to move here is you just do G, and G stands for grab. So you can see if I press G here, basically it will just move around until I left click. So when I left click, it will confirm, or I could do it G, and if I right click, it will cancel the movement. So basically that just kind of grabs it and moves it around. But you might think, you know, it's not as good as when you want to use the specific axis on here like this. It doesn't allow you to do that. However, you'd be wrong again. Let's go back to the select box here. And if we do G to move, but instead of just moving it around freely, you can press one of the keys, either X, Y, or Z. So you can see if I do X here, it will move along the X axis, Y to move along the Y axis, and Z to move along the Z axis. So as you can see, that is why I prefer using this. It means that you can quickly use these tools without having to go over here and click on them. If you want to use the rotate tool, just like I did G to move, I use R to rotate. And as you can see here, it will either rotate based on where you're looking at the cube, or you can do R and then press X, and then you can see it rotates along the X axis, and just like before, left click to confirm, or right click to cancel, and then RY or RZ, just like that. Nice and easy. And put your guesses in the comments. What do you think the key is to scale it? Yeah, it's just S. You just do S to scale. And then again, S and then Z to scale on the Z axis, S and then Y to scale on the Y axis, and then S and then X to scale along the X axis. Super easy, and I hope that is helpful. Now that we know these basic tools, you can start creating some simple models very, very easily. Just like if you want to, I don't know, make something random by going and moving this cube up. Maybe you want to add a cylinder to the bottom. You can add a cylinder and, like, you know, make like maybe like a gun. If you do S to scale it down and then S to scale on the Z axis, it looks a bit like maybe like a turret or something. If I do R and then Y to rotate on the Y axis, that could be like a little kind of like low poly sort of cartoony gun in a game. Looks like a bit like a 3D Diepio model. When doing this, you are limited to only these basic shapes that Blender gives you. You know, maybe you want to add a bit of a detail to the end, you know, just to try and add, I don't know, some extra layers of detail to your model. You're restricted to just using these basic tools that Blender provides. To get around this restriction, I'm now going to show you edit mode. So we're going to just highlight over all of this stuff and then press the delete key to get rid of it. And now we're going to do Shift A, mesh, and add another cube. And here we're going to go into edit mode. There are two ways to enter edit mode. One is to go up to the top left corner here where it says object mode, which is what we are currently in. Click on it and then go down to edit mode. And as you see, it looks completely different. I'm just going to quickly go back here and go to object mode again, just to show you a quicker way that most people use to switch between object and edit mode. And that is just using the tab key. So you can press tab to go into edit mode and then tab to go out. When going to edit mode, you want to make sure you have selected the thing that you want to edit. I'll give you an example here. If I do Shift A and add a few more cubes in and just move them kind of along the X axis, just to show you what would happen if you don't have something selected. So basically, if I select this one in the middle and then do tab into edit mode, you can see you can see all the different points on the model that you've got selected, whereas here you can't see them on the other two models. And you see if I select this one and then do tab, you can see I can see the points on this one. And there we go. That's just what I thought I'd say. You want to make sure you have the one thing you want to edit selected. So we're going to go delete these other ones here, and we're going to go into edit mode with tab. Now you might be wondering, what can you actually do in edit mode? Well, this allows you to manipulate every single point in your model and also do a few more really awesome tools I'm going to be showing a couple of in this video. So what we can do is we can select all the different points. You can see by default, they are all selected. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do Alt and A to deselect everything. And then we're going to select one. So let's just select this one and you can see it's gone orange. And you can, again, as before, I showed you the different tools you can use, you know, the move tool and move this point around. However, you can also use the thing I showed you before where you do like G to move and then like Z, GX, and you can see you can move it for the point that way. And yeah, that's one thing that you could do, just move these different points around. But you might want to move two of them. So if I want to move these two here by highlighting them and then doing G and then X to move along that X axis, you can see I'm starting to create some really interesting shapes that you would struggle to do with just basic shapes. You might want to select all these vertices at the top and to select multiple at once. So you click one, then hold shift whilst selecting some more. And you can see when you hold shift, it will keep selecting. Whereas before, if I select one and then select the next one, you can see that it keeps deselecting the one that I had selected. So I basically just go click one and hold shift and click them all. And if you click one, so for example, I'm trying to select all these top faces. If I click one, click another, and I want to select that one, but I accidentally select that one, and I've got them all apart from I don't want this one selected, you can just shift and click on it again. By shifting and clicking on it again, it will actually get rid of it. So there we go. You can see here, I've got all these selected now. So if we want to, so for example, move this up a bit, make it higher, or we want to use the scale tool by either using the actual scale tool like that, or we just want to press S just like that. You can see we're starting to create some really unique shapes. And if you move this down, you're getting like a bit like a bottom of a boat. This could be like the bottom of a boat sort of thing. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a few different ways to select. So you can see here, you can click on one and shift click them all. But if you wanted to select this whole top thing, instead of selecting the vertices, you can select the face. So you see just up here, there are these options. There is the dot, the line, and the kind of square. The square one's face select. So if we click on face select here, you will see that I can actually select faces instead of points. And the reason this is good is because it's just quicker to select things like faces. And then we can move that face around just as we please. You know, maybe you want to rotate it, just rotate it around, go crazy. That's just how you do it. The other one in the middle is line select, and it's how you think it would be. You can select lines. Again, this is great because it can save you some time if you want to select all the lines around the model, but also you can sometimes just use vertices or faces. I'm going to now show you a few of the most helpful tools. I'm just going to do Control Z a few times just to get this cube a bit more normal, because right now it is definitely a bit messed up. Yeah, that should work. That'll be fine. And I'm now going to show you how we can extrude. So to extrude, you usually want to select a face. You can extrude just an edge or a vertice. However, you usually want a whole face selected. So you can either just select all the points on a face and see the whole face kind of goes orange, or we can go to face select mode. I'm going to use face select mode here because it's best practice. And now to extrude, you come down here to this kind of tool that's got like a box with a green bit on the top, and then you click on it and you can see it opens this tool with this like plus yellow sign. And you can see if I click on this, hold it and drag it out, it extrudes the model kind of in this direction. And then with this extrusion, we can actually scale it, you know, rotate it a bit. We can move it with the G tool, move it up a bit, stuff like that. We're getting very messy now, but that's the sort of things you could use with this tool. And then with the end selected, so again in face mode, select that end face. What we can do is we can actually go to the tool below extrude, and that is the inset faces tool. And then with that, you can see it only gives us this yellow circle. However, just click in the yellow circle, hold and drag in, and you can see this kind of creates an inset section. And on its own, this doesn't look any different. However, if we now go back to the extrude tool and we extrude it inwards, you can see we're starting to create these details that we wouldn't be able to do with just regular shapes. And you can see how easy it is to achieve these details. And now I'm going to show you the tool that goes under this inset face tool, and that is the bevel tool. We're going to go to edge mode here because edge mode is the best mode for beveling because you want to bevel the edges. So now I'm going to select the edges just around this edge. So go edge, 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 edge. Whoops, the wrong one. So I clicked the wrong one by accident. So we're going to click on that one that I mistakenly clicked, and then click the right one. And as you can see here, we've got this whole nice ring selected. And now with this bevel tool, we're going to go and click over that yellow dot and kind of drag it a bit. And you can see it creates this nice hard beveled edge. And this is just what we want to create. You might want a really big bevel. You might only want a tiny bevel. I'm going to go somewhere in between. And there you can see we can do Alt A to deselect everything, or you can do A to select everything. But if you want to deselect everything to get a better look, you can do that. As you can see, we're also going to tab out of edit mode. We're getting some really, really nice details that you wouldn't be able to get with regular shapes. We're going to go back into edit mode here with tab. We're going to go edge mode, and we're going to actually select these edges on the very outside as well, and make sure we have the bevel tool enabled. And we're going to bevel them again. This time we're going to do another kind of medium bevel. And as you can see now, we've beveled both these edges to create this super nice beveled edge look. And this is the sort of things you'll use in like a sci-fi build. You could turn this thing into like a spaceship super easily. The final tool I'm going to be showing from edit mode in this video is the loop cut tool. And how loop cuts work is you just go below the bevel tool and you click on loop cut. And now what you can see is whilst you hover your mouse over stuff, it creates these yellow kind of lines around your model dependent on where you hover your mouse. And these lines are really just where they're going to add loop cuts. And you can see here, if I go here and I want one here, I left click, and you can see it lets me just add a simple loop cut. It's that easy. So you go here, you click, and it's that easy to add lots, and you can add a lot of loop cuts. I'm going to undo that here and show you another thing you can do with this tool. You can add one back here, and we can now scale that up. You can start to see we can create some really cool shapes doing stuff like this. Now that I've taught you how to use all those tools, I'm going to show you some quick shortcuts to make them easier. So say for example, you want to extrude this top face nice and easily. Instead of going all the way here to the extrude tool and then dragging up, what you can do is you can actually press E and it will just extrude, and then left click when you're done. That's how easy the extrude tool is. And then again, with the inset face tool, you can just do I. So I to inset faces. Very easy. E for extrude, I for inset. And let's say, just like before, we want to extrude this face inwards again. We can just do E, move our mouse down a bit, and then left click. Nice and simple. Now, if we're going to bevel these edges, again, we're going to get out the select tool. So we can go here, select all the edges we want to bevel. And then what we can do is we can do Control B. So it's not B, it's Control B. And as you can see, just like this, it lets us kind of move our mouse and then left click when we're happy. And there we go. The bevel tool is that easy to use. Similarly, for loop cuts, the shortcut's a bit like Control B for bevel. You have to do Control R. This one isn't as easy to remember because R and loop cuts don't really go together. However, you'll get used to it. And then what you can do is when you do Control R, it will come up with the yellow lines we had before. However, it works slightly differently. This time, when we left click, instead of adding the loop cut, it lets you still move your mouse and it lets you slide the loop cut along where you want it. And if you want it on this edge, you can move it along with your mouse and then left click. However, if you want to add it just down the middle like it usually would, you can click once with your left click, and instead of moving it along, you can try and get it centrally if you want with your mouse, or you can just right click. And if you right click, it will put it down the center. And these are just some nice basic tools you can use in Blender. There's still an absolute ton more to learn with Blender, and hopefully I can teach you a bit more through some more of my videos. So do check out the video on screen now if you want to learn how to do even more stuff in this amazing software. Or comment down below if you have any questions. Make sure to subscribe if you found this video helpful, and hopefully I see you in the next video.